Trish Dolman founded Screen Siren Productions in 1997. She's been writing, directing, and producing Canadian film and television for 18 years. With close to 20 productions to her credit, Trish has produced feature films, TV movies, TV series, and documentaries, and has won numerous awards and nominations, Gemini, Genie Award, Banff Rocky, and Leo Awards. In 2010, she was named one of the 100 most influential women in British Columbia by the Vancouver Sun. So please welcome Trish Dolman.
Thank you. Some things are wrong in my bio, so I don't know how I started a company 21 years ago, but I've been working only for 18 years. I'm going to date myself, but I graduated in 1992 and then have been working in the industry ever since. So the years are getting long. Anyhow, I was looking at the list of people who are attending. How many people, and there's quite a variety, from jewelry designers to people with production companies to digital media specialists. How many of you here are producers, for example? And how many are digital media specialists? Okay, great. So some of the stuff I'm going to cover, you're going to know. Hopefully it'll be helpful. I was asked to specifically talk about digital media marketing, and so I have two projects I want to share with you as case studies because I think they're really good examples. I think about 5 years ago, for me, is when I really realized that as an independent producer and as content creators, we can't rely on other people to market our projects. When I started, you would pitch a television project to a broadcaster, you'd make it, you'd deliver it, and they would pretty much entirely be responsible for marketing it. I've produced feature films my whole career, same thing. You know, we would hire a publicist and create a press kit and do the poster and the trailer, but then we'd just turn it over. And I think those days are long gone. And we all have to be extraordinarily proactive and active in making sure our content reaches an audience. So the first project I wanted to talk to you about is Canada in a Day. I wanted to give you a little bit of information about the company. So I founded Screen Siren Pictures in 1997. There's about 7 full-time employees, and then we employ between 30 and 100 people on average on our productions, whether those are one-off feature documentaries, documentary series, feature films, or scripted television series. And then we've actively been producing the digital media space, mostly to accompany and augment that other content over the last 5 years. So the first project I wanted to talk about is Canada in a Day. So Canada in a Day is user-generated content feature documentary that aired on CTV for the 150th anniversary of Canada. It is based on the Ridley Scott-produced format Life in a Day that Kevin MacDonald originally made, that first premiered at the Sundance Film Festival. It was made for YouTube. And I just happened to have a friend who was the managing director of Ridley Scott's company in the UK. And one day he called up, I think it was actually in 2012. And he said, look, we have this property and we're selling the format rights around the world. Who do you think in Canada would be interested in doing this? And I was like, me, I would. And it was quite simple to get off the ground. I just sent an email to Corey Coe at CTV, who I have a long working relationship with, and I said, look, I have this great property. It's from Ridley Scott, so it's quite pedigree. And I think it would be great for the 150th anniversary of Canada. She said, yes, I agree. She sent it to her digital media team. They put it into development, and then we kind of put it on hiatus because I sort of started too early. And Corey Coe came back in 2015 and said, okay, we're ready to do this project. And at that point, I'd completely forgotten about it. So it took some doing to get it off the ground, because being user-generated content, we had to do an advanced marketing campaign. Normally, Canadian broadcasters don't start thinking about marketing a show until 2 weeks out. So I had to convince Canada's largest private broadcaster to start thinking about marketing a project 18 months before it was made. So it was a big endeavor to get everyone on board, but we did. So it was extraordinarily successful. We received over 16,000 videos from over 11,000 Canadians. It aired on CTV on June 25th. The cumulative ratings were 3.2 million Canadians in 1 week. So I was pretty happy with that. We were also, on the day it aired from 9 to 10 p.m., the most watched television show across the country. But it really began in order to reach Canadians and engage them and actually ask them to pick up a camera or a phone, film a video, then go to our website and upload it and send it to me. It required a massive outreach and marketing campaign. So we started that campaign across all platforms on July 16th, 2016, in order to get them to prepare to film their lives on September 10th. So the concept of the project is it's 24 hours in the day of a life of one country. You ask people to film on that day, they send in the video, and the format is the film follows a 24-hour clock. So it's quite a set format. With all of these digital marketing campaigns, I think it's really important, especially now that some of the funds have been forced to change their guidelines, that you come up with a value-added proposition that is not just to support the show. So every digital media component needs unique, original content that can stand alone. You can't just say, I'm making a website to support this show. So we worked with an excellent company called Switch United, and we did a very extensive Bell Fund application. Has anyone done one of these Bell Fund applications before? Yeah. So you'll know they're over 100 pages long. These applications, they take months to prepare, and often you're not successful. So they came up with this idea together we came up with this idea to create an ambassador campaign. And we would go out to prominent Canadians who would film a video and ask Canadians to participate, to film their lives, and they would share it on their social channels. So that was the unique kind of value-added proposition, and we ended up creating over 75 of these videos. So I want to, unfortunately, I don't have two screens, so I'm going to toggle back and forth, but I'd really just like to show you the trailer first, and then I'm going to go back and forth between this PowerPoint and show you the website itself. But the main component was a hub site, which was canadainaday.ca. It was bilingual in French and English. It's interactive and iterative, so it had 7 different phases to the website. As I mentioned, it was created by Switch United, and we had these ambassador videos that were hosted on YouTube. So I just want to show you the trailer for those of you who haven't seen it.
Last year, we reached out to Canadians and asked them to tell us their story in one day. The results were extraordinary. We received more than 16,000 video submissions, and we brought them together to tell a special story. These are the portraits of the people who lived that day. From executive producer Scott Free Films, Canada in a Day, Sunday, June 25th at 8/7 Central on CTV.
So that was the on-air promo. And as I mentioned, we created a website. So this was the version of the website that was released on September 10th when you could upload your film. So we had 2 versions prior to this. And people would click on here, and then we actually designed a proprietary upload system. I had numerous meetings with Scott Free about how they had done it. They had worked with YouTube on the first film and used YouTube as an upload platform. The problem with using YouTube is the video is compressed, so once you select the videos you want to use, you have to either go back to YouTube and try to get the uncompressed video, or you have to go back to the source, which seemed very problematic to me because you're relying on one of the largest corporations in the world to find someone who will actually cooperate with you. Richie Mehta actually directed India in a Day for Scott Free, and Google actually created a proprietary upload system for them to do that. And the producers raved about how great it was, and then the production manager took me aside and said, actually, it was terrible. I recommend you don't use it. I had many people contact me, and we had to go around the Google upload system in order to get their videos. So I was very proud of the fact that we created this upload platform that was extraordinarily seamless. So you would click on it, and you would get taken to this sign in. Let me just close that, shall I? You'd sign in with Facebook or Twitter, and then it was about 10 different menus in order to upload your video. And I was amazed. We had no bugs, and everyone was able to submit their video. We also, I really wanted remote communities and indigenous communities to participate. So we actually got a camera sponsor and sent cameras to about 20 different remote communities. And we asked them to return the video on a drive. That was the only video that was not personally uploaded to this upload platform. So it worked really, really well. So the other components of the site, if we go back to the main portion, we had a countdown clock that led up to the filming day. We explained to people what Canada in a Day was. And then we had, I thought just Switch did an amazing job of creating a site that was exciting and dynamic. And then sadly, at the age of 46, I had to put myself on camera about 20 times, because one of the things that In a Day format does is you have to directly engage with the consumer and ask them. So I taught myself how to be an on-camera presenter. It was a little painful at first, and I reshot a number of the videos, but then I actually got pretty decent at it. And but those videos were really important in the direct engagement. All of the videos we created were on YouTube. So I'll just quickly walk you through a couple. It was really about telling people what this film was about, because people were confused about, it was easy to be confused about what it was. So I came up with 4 different questions that people could answer in their footage. Here's another video, and just really about the In a Day and what it was based on. So you can see that there's been a number of other films made in this format. The original film had 80,000 uploads. So if you think about that globally, we had 16,000. It's pretty good. Britain only had 11,000 uploads. Japan, 8,000. Italy is one of the top ones with 45,000. Germany, 10,000, India. So we had more than India, which is very high level in a digital world of engagement. So Italy and Spain were slightly higher. So Canada in a Day became the 3rd most successful in terms of population engagement. I was pretty happy with that because it really meant that our marketing campaign really cut through the clutter. So the site also explained what was going to happen on the day and what you were going to do. And then also 2 other sections, the ambassador section. Let's see how long that takes to load. It's a lot of videos. But we went to a variety of influential Canadians from many, many different communities. The whole Bell Media family got involved. Some of their anchors, their news anchors, and their TV hosts got involved. But then we reached out in different parts of the country to people that we knew were influential, and to just really hit a wide variety of demographics and ages of people. And I was amazed at the people that were happy to do that. So I think it was 75 different ambassadors we gathered. And then we created a section that also just gave filming tips. One of the things is that we really wanted to try to make sure people filmed horizontally and not vertically, which we probably got about 20% of the footage we got was horizontal. And I only ended up using 3 different clips, vertical. I only ended up using 3 vertical clips because they were so strong. Other than that, so I had my friend Greg Middleton, who's the DOP on Game of Thrones, do a great little video giving people tips. I had different influential Canadians, like that's Avan Jogia, who's a young Canadian actor who has 3 million Twitter followers, do a little video, and he shared it on Twitter. And then just various people, giving tips on what to do. So that was the essence of the site, and the site was really what we were trying to drive people to ultimately, because that's where you were going to upload your videos. So let me get back to this. No. So the second component was obviously social media. Social media was going to be integral to driving people to the website. So I feel like there's a couple different ways as a producer that you can approach social media. You can hire a larger company, which is what we did in this case, which was Innovate by Day, Deb Day's company based out of Toronto. Given that I was working with CTV, and if any of you have worked with CTV, they're pretty rigorous. Like once they get behind a project, they're really behind it. But they have exacting standards. Just getting the content of the website approved probably went through about 60 different iterations, and we would have marketing calls with about 38 different marketing people, from marketing to publicity to digital to content. We would have these weekly calls with 38 people on them. So in this particular context, I really needed a company that could handle, Canada's largest broadcaster. On the next project I'm going to talk about, we relied on smaller companies and individuals, and I just try to choose the right people for the right project to work on. And in this case, Innovate by Day was the right company. They had worked with CTV, they had a reputation, and they could handle sort of that degree of scrutiny. You can see we really focused on 4 social media channels: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Snapchat. We were most successful on Facebook and Twitter, and we're just really highly interactive. So that's sort of as you would expect. The one thing that we did that was quite different that I think people forget about is we actually used the telephone. It's funny, I have a lot of young people who work in my office, and I just noticed that people really don't use the phone anymore. They rely on emails all the time, and email is so impersonal. And I don't know about you guys, but I get 200 to 300 emails a day. I went away for a week at the end of August. I had my out-of-office responder on for 7 days. I came home to 1,600 emails, right? It's just like an unmanageable form of communication. And if you're I find cold emailing people really absolutely doesn't work. Almost, unless it comes with, hi, so-and-so has introduced me and they're CC'd. How many of us actually read cold emails? So in terms of engaging the Canadian population, Canada in a Day was a real conundrum. Like, how are we going to break through the zeitgeist and get people to make all this effort? Because it's actually a lot of effort. They're not just watching something. You're actually asking them to do something and then to send it to you. So Scott Free had recommended direct telephone outreach, and I was kind of like, oh, wow, really? Okay. So we started out with kind of a smaller group of people working in-house, and then CTV at one point, like in July, had like a panic attack. And they're like, we're worried, we're just going to have like 5 people upload, we're freaking out. We want you to double the outreach team. So what we did is we doubled the number of people working in-house. We hired a social media specialist, an individual who worked in concert with Innovate by Day, but she's really a specialist at community engagement. That's what she's really good at, is that interpersonal, right online, writing back and forth, truly engaging with people, talking to them about their experience and managing them, which is essential. Like I notice even that a lot of broadcasters I work with aren't truly engaging. They'll write like great or thanks or whatever, and that's not actual meaningful engagement. And when you're dealing with user-generated content where the people care, they want meaningful engagement, is something I learned. You are directly relating now on an individual basis to every single person who is not only making a video, but watching your project. And that means meaningful engagement, and I often did a lot of it myself. I would get on there and be like, hi, I'm the director. I just want to answer your question or talk. And especially if there was problems, I got directly involved and managed those problems. Because, for example, people were really upset that their clip didn't make it in the film. So we had to manage that really carefully. But we also hired another company out of Calgary called The Sales Effect and developed a database system that I think ended up having over 70,000 contacts. And we had a system where we used a great piece of software to manage the system. But it all started, we had people creating the list, the database, and then we had people who got on the phone every day and they phoned teachers' unions. What we discovered was that cities like the city of Regina, the city of Saskatoon, Moose Jaw, the city offices were actually extraordinary points of contact. So the outreach team would phone and say, we're doing Canada in a day. We want to engage your city to participate so that it's represented in this film about our country. Would you mind posting on your social media channels as a city? And you'd be amazed at how many people follow their city on social media. I had no idea at the time. I was like, why would you follow your city? But people do. And in return, what we would do, we would send them the graphics and stuff to share out. And in return, we would post on our channels, the city of Niagara-on-the-Lake is going to participate in Canada in a day. So there was this kind of mutual brand sharing that happened. And cities and mayors actually became some of our greatest allies. We also got into the Ontario Teachers Union, and it was sent to all the schools. We reached out to every film and broadcast program, university, college across the country. I went all across the country, public speaking at conferences, asking people to participate. So, but the real lesson was the value of that direct and in-person engagement. I actually think was extraordinarily helpful. Now, what I'm not going to get into is what CTV did, because they did above and beyond what you would normally do. They ran endless promos. But they also, on Bell Mobility, texted people on September 10th and said, are you filming your life for Canada in a day? If you had Bell as your cable provider, you got a message on your TV. Like they burned down the house reaching out to people. Like I've never seen them do that before. So we also had extraordinary support. And they ran promos like night and day. So on filming day, the website actually got 57,000 people engaging on the website. As you can see, 81% of that came from mobile and only 18% from desktop computers. So most people were engaging with us and uploading on filming day from mobile. The total number of sessions in just over a year was 329,000 unique visitors to the website, which is pretty good for Canada. Our social media results, which I can take you, I'm going to just pop out and show you what we did on Facebook. So we really used Facebook and, of course, Facebook ads. So CTV did a deal with Facebook where I think we paid them $20,000 for ad buys and they gave us $40,000 worth of ad buys. And what I've noticed even since this time, since 2016, is that now Facebook can detect if you're promoting almost anything and you're not going to make the Facebook algorithm unless you're doing paid ads. So I'm really seeing the difference. If you publish something personal, it'll hit people's feeds, but if you're promoting anything, an event, you know, your film screening on television channel or in a theater or whatever, you have to promote it. And that's a big change I've noticed in the last couple of years. It just won't hit people's feeds otherwise. So we did very well with Facebook, and Facebook was one of the primary ways that we communicated directly with our audience. And then the people whose clips made it, there was 324 clips that made it in the final film, they really also participated. And every time I direct a documentary, I really like to become friends with the people in it. I just attended the wedding of a woman who was a 16-year-old girl when I met her, and made my first documentary about ice skating, and I attended wedding number 2 this summer. So I've become friends with a bunch of contributors on Facebook and continue to communicate with them. We hosted a party in Vancouver where we invited all the British Columbia participants to come, and it was really fun. There was a little girl there who was like really inspired to become a film director, which I thought was pretty cool. I mean, I could show you through the Facebook, but you can go there yourself. There's like a huge history of what we did, and we also released every single video on Facebook, right? So every single one of those ambassador videos, we released them every week, a new ambassador, and had the ambassadors share them out on social. So there was like a weekly launch print, and then all the horrible videos of me are also on there. We also used Twitter really effectively. I was really, really pleased with how Twitter did. On filming day, we actually trended #1 across Canada in varying parts of the day and in major centers like Toronto, which I now realize how hard that actually is to do. So I was pretty pleased with that too. So you can go back here. Oh no, sorry, you guys, I screwed up. So yeah, here are some of the results. So if you look at the likes, 22,553 likes, not that much, right? A decent amount. So we did this paid ad campaign like I talked about, and through that we were actually able to reach 4.7 million people and got 2.2 million engagements. So that was pretty good. Instagram was probably our weakest. I don't think we utilized it particularly well, and I think you're seeing a lot of people now leave Facebook for Instagram, and I would, you know, if this was today, I would put a lot more focus on Instagram. But if you can see, 25% of our traffic to the website, we could actually track directly from social media. Twitter, again, not so many followers, but I thought our results were amazing. Like I said, we trended #1 across Canada on September 10th, and our estimated Twitter reach was 6.6 million. I never really trust those impression numbers, but they sound good. So I would say that Canada in a Day was an extraordinary example of digital media marketing and social media engagement. Within 24 hours of filming day, where we opened that upload portal, we received over 10,000 videos within 24 hours. So we kept that portal open for 30 days, and we only got 6,000 more. So the bulk of them were uploaded on that day. We in total got the 16,818 videos in 18 different languages. Every province and territory participated. I mean, I have data, if you really want it, that breaks down like every minutia, tiny tidbit, like which province, you know, participated the most, what activities people filmed. Like, we have extraordinary data from it. And then, as I mentioned, we came in 3rd place from all the In a Day franchises across the country. What I love too is that we also got videos from Canadians living in 22 different countries. So we really, through digital media marketing, because none of CTV's messaging reached outside of Canada, we reached Canadians around the world. We actually, one of the other outreach pieces we got was Foreign Affairs Canada came on board, and they promoted it to every Foreign Affairs office through their ambassadors and cultural attaches to everyone, every Canadian they could reach outside of Canada. So that was pretty cool. And that was when Harper was still in power, so. Because there weren't cultural people then, right? The Liberals were on the back. So this is where we got the money from to do this. The budget of Canada in a day itself was $1.3 million, and we raised over $600,000 for the digital media and marketing initiative. Bell Fund supported it because they said it was the first example of that they had ever been able to support of actually the digital and social media generating the content that would then be broadcast. So pretty cool. Any questions about Canada in a day before we move on? Yep.
I wanted to know, what was the database you said you used for social interaction?
Oh yeah, so it was called Unsightly. Really, really interesting, like a bit funky to get used to the interface. And it's basically like a sales lead. It was really used for our outreach. So you input your leads, like the name, the phone number, email, all that stuff, who's responsible for getting in touch with them. Then you can put notes from the call, their URL, all their social channels, and then we would tick them as like a supporting lead. So it would go into the database of people. Like we had a database of the people we were going to hit, and then you could change their category once they were on board. And then from Unsightly, we generated these awesome reports every day that we would circulate amongst our team and to CTV of who we'd actually contacted and who came on board and what their footprint was, right? We'd ask them, or we'd go to their channels and be like, how many Twitter followers do they have? How many Facebook followers? So in a day, you could say like, oh, wow, today we were able to garner organizations that had like 500,000 reach. And they posted today, or they're going to post next week, or they're going to post on this special occasion, and repeated posting. So that was very, very useful. Unfortunately, that was before Bell Fund was required by the CRTC to change their mandate. So this specific kind of funding isn't available anymore. Now you have to do like web series, scripted web series, documentary web series, but we're looking at ways of doing that to also support our content, but now they've been forced, unfortunately, to change. Who knows if it'll change back. Yeah, no problem. I can take more questions at the end. Any more specific questions about Canada in a day before I move on? Oh, what was also pretty cool is we won 2 CSA awards. So I won the Canadian Screen Award for Best Director, which was kind of ironic. And there was like 75 nominees in the Best Director for Television. And then what made me the most happy is my editor, Nick Hector, won Best Editing, because of course it was a huge editing job. He's one of the best editors in Canada, I think. Hi. So I had a team, so we kind of changed the outreach people to the loggers. So we had this team of people outreaching, and then once the videos came in, we changed them to logging and viewing. And we had, Scott Free had given us kind of quite a good template for how to rank. And so we had a ranking system. So the loggers would watch the clip, they would describe the clip, and we had keywords. We used Unsightly again, which was amazing because you could watch the clips from within Unsightly. So we created a separate database in Unsightly of all the clips. You could watch the clip in Unsightly, attach a keyword like basketball, outdoors, people, sports, fun, laughter, all these things, right? So when I was editing, if I wanted something, I could just search. I could search every clip that had laughter in it, and then I could watch it. Because it was a time of day, right? It starts at midnight and goes to midnight. That's how the film is structured. We also had in Unsightly the date and timestamp. So when we were cutting morning, I needed more shots of dawn and morning, and I could just search them. Like I'd be sitting there in the edit suite with Nick, and I'd be like, oh, I'm going to search dawn or first light or birds tweeting, or like I could literally search everything. So the loggers worked for 2.5 months logging all the clips, and then Nick and I started working together in December. He and I met in Ontario and just started talking about what I wanted to achieve with the film. How am I doing for time? How much time do I have left? 20 minutes? Okay, I better hurry up, because we have a whole other project to talk about. But, you know, the goal for me with Canada in a Day is I feel like we have a lot of work still in Canada to represent the diversity of this country on our screens, right? Most cities, like the city of Toronto is 49% non-Caucasian. I live in Vancouver, it's 48% non-Caucasian. Is that what we're seeing on TV? No, like we're still making series about like a Korean convenience store. Like it's not how Canada is anymore, right? I have a son, his class is extraordinarily diverse. There's mixed race family, like, so I just really wanted to show that. I wanted to make a film that really presented what I saw as Canada today. And what was really cool is I feel like we achieved that. Like we actually got deep engagement from every community. So, we also, again, with the logging question, we had a rough, I think it was that rough cut. I got people back and rewatched all the footage based on the cut we had, and I was like, here's what I'm missing. Have we overlooked anything? Is there a gem that has been, so we had this star rating, like 5 stars was the best, 1 star was the worst. Still up to someone's opinion. So I brought people back and I got them to watch every single clip and I said, here's the 10 things I'm looking for. Find them. It's got to be in the footage. And we actually found new material. It was only like maybe 5 or 10 new clips, but we actually got new materials. I was pretty excited about that. So the next project I want to talk about is Indian Horse. So Indian Horse is a feature film based on an award-winning novel written by a BC resident author at the time named Richard Wagamese. We optioned the book in 2012. It was an award-winning novel. It took us 5 years to develop it. We screened it. We had our world premiere at the Toronto International Film Festival last year. And then Elevation Pictures released it across Canada in April of this year. It did very well, and we'll get to that. But I want to quickly show you the trailer, because I think that's better than me talking.
Try it. Here we go.
Let me in.
See what you can do.
They said I should tell my story.
The Lord God is your father now.
The rink became my escape, the game my survival.
Father, he's the best player on the rink.
This is your way out. Your way to a better life.
Told me many hearts beating together makes us stronger. I came far to make this journey. Can't understand where you're going if you don't understand where you've been.
How many people have seen Indian Horse? A couple of people? Okay. So I really encourage you to see it. It's on the plane right now. It's on WestJet and on Air Canada. So you can see it there. It went on to become the most successful Canadian feature film to be released this year, and we're preparing for the US release this fall. So, most importantly is it has become a really important part of the national conversation about reconciliation. So just on the plane out here, I was sitting across the aisle from an Indigenous man, and he saw my laptop and he said, "What's Canada in a day?" And so I told him, and we started talking, and he's like, "Oh, that's really cool. You did that. I saw it." Blah, blah. And then we started talking about Indian Horse, and he's like, "Yeah, I haven't seen it. I'm really worried that I'm going to get triggered. I'm part of the 60s scoop. My biological parents went to residential schools, blah, blah, blah." And he said, "But you know what was really cool is my dad saw it and said and we've finally been able to talk about the schools. He reconnected with his biological father when he was 24. And he said, his dad said, if Clint Eastwood wants me to talk about it, I think I'm ready to talk about it." So I feel very proud of what the film's been able to do. But getting back to digital media and marketing, we took basically what we learned from Canada in a day and applied it to this, and are basically doing that with everything we do. So what we knew is that Indian Horse was very, very different and needed to be handled very different. So Richard Wagamese, who wrote the novel, had a number of people approach him to translate his book to the screen. And he chose us, myself and my partner, Christine Habler. We're both non-Indigenous. We live in Vancouver. And when we met him in person, we asked him why, because we found out that other people were chasing the book, because we got to it before it had been published. And he said, "Well, I looked at your work, and I want my book to be made into a film that will reach as many people in the world as possible. And I think you're the two people to do that." So we took that very seriously and sought out to make a very commercial film. Like Richard wanted Clint Eastwood to direct the film. He wanted a film that just would reach the world, because Richard believed that everyone was the face of reconciliation, and that the only way forward is that if every Indigenous and non-Indigenous Canadian worked together. And that was his very personal belief. So we started the digital marketing campaign. We began again with an interactive hub site, like we did on Canada in a Day, that we launched with our social media campaign in August of 2017, which was just prior to the world premiere at the Toronto Film Festival. And what we wanted to do was to reach an Indigenous and non-Indigenous audience. To do that, we worked with Anna Mickey, Indigenous Technology. It's a Victoria-based digital media company. Very good company, very good people who have been extraordinary partners. We, again, applied to the Bell Fund, and they came up with this idea, again, to create original, unique digital content. They came up with this idea to do the Next 150 campaign. That starting in January of this year, because once people see the film or read the book or both, one of the questions that comes up is, what can I do? Like, this has happened in the past. It creates a lot of emotion. And what can I do now that I've seen the film? So they came up with this idea that we would weekly post a challenge. And it would be part of the website and on social, and each week we'd release a video from a challenger asking them to participate in the challenge. And that was called the Next 150 campaign, and that was part of our Bell Fund application. We also worked with a company called Hello Cool World to create an educational component. So again, it was 3 parts, like in Canada in a Day, but different parts. So the website is bilingual in English and in Cree. It's also interactive, mostly through the Next 150 campaign, and iterative. It's changed over time. This is Anna Mickey who created it. So I just want to show you the site because, again, I think they did an amazing job. So, you know, the homepage would change. So right now you can I only have 5 minutes, download the DVD. There's a section about the film. You can read about the book. There's an important section on the history of residential schools themselves. This is taking too long. Then there's an educational section. So the direct audience interface piece, both of these sites also had newsletter sign up, by the way, to continually communicate with the audience. But educators, because the book is being taught in schools, so when we started shooting, there was about 60,000 educational copies across Canada. Now there's almost 200. So there's a big footprint for this IP in schools, and teachers were telling us that they needed help teaching this content, that they didn't feel necessarily prepared or have the tools. So the site provides history. We worked, again, it's all about partnership. So we worked with the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. We showed them the film. We worked carefully on the credits and contextualizing the film in reality, and also on this historical part of the site. We also have an educational component, like I said, where teachers can sign up. There's a downloadable curriculum guide, support guide. And a big part of the theatrical release was based on what are called group sales, which are educational sales, where teachers bring classrooms or schools bring kids during the day and they fill theaters. So even though I've been in this business for so long, I didn't really know that that was a key component, could be a really significant component of your theatrical release. So you can see, there's downloads and resources, how to give us feedback, different links for learning. And then we also partnered with Orange Shirt Day on the film and have had an ongoing partnership with them. So all our cast wore orange shirts at our Vancouver International Film Festival screening and spoke about Orange Shirt Day. So it was a great collaboration with them. And then we created this Next 150 campaign. It's a bit slow. So we didn't do Snapchat. Our main focus was on Facebook, lesser so on Twitter, and then also on Instagram. So in this case, we didn't go out to a big company. We hired an Indigenous specialist, Lena Manifi, who I had worked before. She was an intern for me about 10 years ago, and she has her master's with a focus in social media planning. So she would create these extraordinary plans, and she has a really very deep understanding, especially of Indigenous content. And what we discovered in Canada is that the Indigenous community is on Facebook, but it's like a whole different channel. You know, I think in reaction to so much racism that occurs on CBC posts and stuff, people have just created their own network, and it's insular. And so we were really able to reach an Indigenous audience and get them to engage with us because of Lena and because of Anna Mickey. And then, as I said, Hello Cruel World did this educational component. It's all on the site. The trailer for the film we released, the one I showed you, we released it on February 16th. It's been watched 312 times on YouTube and 1.2 million times on Facebook. 67,000 views on Twitter. The posts on Facebook have reached over 5.1 million impressions. And on Twitter, we had over 6.5 million users. So Instagram, we also did pretty well with 11,000 likes. So we actually had more likes on Indian Horse than we got on Canada in a day, because it has a longer tail. But, you know, the film was really and truly, I think, because of this joint efforts, a Canadian and a British Columbia success story. To date, it's made over 1.7 million at the box office. We've won 8 audience awards at festivals, 3 other festival awards, and 2 Leo awards. Our audience score on Rotten Tomatoes is 94%. We are continuing to screen the film and fly in remote communities all over Canada. That Northern Air is so excited about the impact of the film as they've entirely sponsored another leg of the tour, so it just keeps going on and on. And most importantly to me, it's contributed to this important conversation about reconciliation. And like I said, now we are working with Elevation Pictures to release the film in the US following a very similar model. So what's interesting is that the digital media and social media component is also how we're releasing the film. So we have all these community screenings that we're starting first with in the United States, and then after that, we're going to do a more traditional theatrical release. We have over 75 different communities that have requested screenings in the US so far, and that's where we're going to start. So I think it's really an indication of how the market has changed and how marketing has to be far less conventional. Like, I personally think like print ads are a waste of time, you know, or how valuable is one billboard in Toronto? So this is some other marketing. So Elevation spent over $750,000 marketing the film. It went to over 122 cinemas. It's still playing. Our budget for this digital media component was $300,000. Yeah, we're actively selling the educational DVD. And yeah, I think it just all worked out really well. It's something I'm very proud of. And these are all of the companies that supported both the film and the digital media portion. Thanks.
That was awesome. Thank you.